Pardon me?
Are you ready to begin?
I'm ready to
Okay.
begin.
Okay. So my name is
Okay, I started?
I'll lead you in.
Yeah, okay.
So my name is Taylor Smith. I work for Pacific Historic Parks. I'm an educator here.
Yeah.
Would you mind stating your name, please?
Pardon me?
What is your name?
Kenneth Stevens.
Kenneth Stevens?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So let's start at the beginning. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Myrtle Point, Oregon, which is in southwestern Oregon. I lived in Oregon all my life.
You did.
And graduated from school from a town named Bandon. But there's a story to that too. I graduated about 2.5 years after I got out of high school.
Wow.
Because at that time you could accumulate points to where you could leave in the middle of the year. I left in the middle of the year to, I wanted to get out and do things, you know. But I didn't because it wasn't any work.
Sure.
I just couldn't get it.
Sure. So did you have any siblings?
Pardon?
Did you have any siblings? Brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I had a sister who was 2 years younger than me, and I had a brother that was 10 years younger than me.
So you were the eldest,
Yeah,
right?
I was the old man.
Okay.
And Kathy is my middle daughter for me.
Wow.
So
did you have any responsibilities as the eldest sibling?
as a family,
Yes.
I did. We lived on a dairy farm, and I was about 13. But we had 50 cows, and my dad dragged me out to the barn to milk cows. So we had equipment to do it with, but anyway, that's how I started work. That didn't pay very much anyway, but we made a living there. We were poor people. People were poor then. See, that was back in, you know, when it was during the Depression.
Sure.
And everybody was poor, but on the farm, well, you can kind of make your way, and that's what we done. We had the cows, and we could sell enough milk and cream that made money to buy clothing and food and stuff like that. But there wasn't any work. I wanted to get out and do something else besides that. Because you know what you got to do with cows? You got to milk them in the morning, you got to milk them in the evening.
Oh,
So
that's a lot of responsibility.
that's not good.
No.
And so that's kind of how I grew up into getting into the Navy.
Wow.
They just couldn't find any work for a kid. Things were just starting to get a little better, but there was a lot of guys that had experience.
Mm-hmm.
They'd hire them. So I'd pick up any job I could find. I remember one day I walked by a freight place, and they had a half load of cement, and I asked if they needed any help. Yeah, I said, go ahead and load that cement. So, oh, good, I got a job. And I got all through, I didn't get paid, 50 cents.
Okay.
And for half a load of cement.
Wow.
So I bought some hamburger, we had cement. I had cement unloaded and hamburger in the house.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it was a struggle for some people to find work. Is that why you gravitated towards the military? What was your decision?
Why did I decide to go to the Navy?
Why did you enlist? Yes.
Probably part of it.
Okay.
Part of it was a place to use work. I paid $21 a month. Then you had a place to live. That was okay. I'd probably get to answer that. And then I heard these old sailors talking about fishing. And I like fishing. I said, well, we travel around the world in the Navy and fish. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's what happened. That's how I got into the Navy.
So that's why you chose the Navy over the other
Well, I
branches.
kind of liked the Navy anyway. I had done a little bit of commercial fishing when I was in high school. But I liked the Navy sound of it,
You like the Navy?
and I was glad I did. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was good work.
So, do you remember going into basic training?
My basic training was in San Diego,
Okay.
and when I was there, I applied for a machinist school, and I was lucky I got it because there was a lot of applicants, and I went through machinist school there before I went to the Whitney. And so then I got to Whitney. I was assigned to that kind of work,
Sure.
you know,
So,
and I went to the fire rooms first. But
can you tell me a little more about that, the fire rooms?
or,
Can you tell me a little more about the fire rooms?
yeah, I could tell you how it worked. It was a old ship. In fact, the Whitney was Christian. It wasn't Christian. Anyway, it was commissioned, I guess I'd say, the same day as was my birthday. So we had birthdays together.
Wow.
So anyway, about the fire room, well, I got assigned to a #1 fire room, and they were closed, what we call closed fire rooms. The whole compartment was pressurized to put the air through the boilers so they have a draft. And so that's where I worked in there and learned how to do that. And I wasn't there very long. I got there in September, just started working there. And so that was my starting point when the attack came too.
Okay.
I was working, wasn't in the fire room at the time,
Yeah.
but so that was how I got going in the Navy in my work.
So sorry.
And
Was the Whitney your first duty station? Was that your first duty station? Was on aboard the Whitney?
pardon me,
Was the Whitney your first duty station?
my ambition.
Your first assignment was on the Whitney?
Yeah, the Whitney.
Okay, that was the
Yeah, I
first
was attached. It was over here when I was assigned to it. So I got another ship over here. I was a passenger, and they took me over to the Whitney and dumped me off. And there I was.
So you learned that you were going to be stationed here in Hawaii. How did that make you feel?
Oh, I was what?
How did you feel about being stationed here in Hawaii on the Whitney?
Oh, well, I was kind of excited about that, you know, the new place and out in the tropics and all that. And so the first thing you do, when you get a liberty, you go ashore, then you can't afford a car, so you just walk and walk and walk and walk around. And I don't know how far you want to go ahead here, but we'd come over, things we done, you could go swimming, of course.
Sure.
You just walk around and look at things, and that's mostly what we done. We'd walk her from town, go down to Waikiki and go swimming, little things. I always remember, I think about that. We'd go into one of those big hotels, we'd change clothes under our swimming suits.
Oh, wow.
And then there was a girl had a hot dog stand there where you buy hot dogs, and the Y was up there just a little ways, and she was in between some of these places and some of those hot dogs. She's stand out there for her hot doggy, sell hot dogs.
Yeah.
I always remember that.
How old were you at this point?
Pardon?
How old were you?
I was 19.
So you're 19 years old. You're
Yeah.
on the beach with your friends,
Yeah.
getting hot dogs. I saw in one of the pictures that you were by some surfboards. Did you surf at all?
I didn't get a picture of it, but we rented one of those big old clumsy things.
Yeah.
My cousin came with me. We enlisted at the same time,
Oh.
and he went into another ship, to a light cruiser, and I went to the Whitney, but we met, and they came in here. Well, probably been with us on maneuvers, which I guess I didn't tell you about that yet. That's where we start. I should really start there with the main thing about the attack.
Sure. So,
Because it has something to do with it.
absolutely.
But anyway,
So you mentioned that your cousin
my cousin was,
was he stationed here, or he was just passing through?
well, he was already over here. He didn't
Okay.
go to school.
Okay.
So when he got out of basic there, San Diego, he went directly to his ship. That's where he was all the time. And it was a light cruiser. It was a different type of ship. Then I went to school and finished at school. Then they transferred me over to the Whitney.
Right.
That's where I got down to the fire rooms.
Okay. So other than your cousin,
Yeah.
were there any other friends that you made while you were here in Hawaii before the attack? Any friends or buddies?
No, I didn't meet anybody here.
Okay.
Just the people in the Navy.
And so,
Yeah.
does anyone stand out from that group in the Navy? Maybe someone on your ship that was a friend of yours?
What?
Do you remember anyone from the ships or from the Navy that you were friends with at that time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That fellow I told you about was from the Long Beach.
Yes.
We were good friends. Yeah.
Was that Francis?
No, he was Ted Ballard. Was his name.
Jim Mallard?
And he's probably gone now, but
So you would spend your time with him? You would.
yeah.
Nice.
We run around together like in that picture, he was. And he went, I think he was with me when we walked down to, no, he wasn't, my cousin was supposed to be. We walked down to Waikiki that day and went surfboarding. And then we came back and had a little snack, and we'd come back up to the center, recreation center,
Okay.
there on the, well, it was close to the landing. I think I said 3 it was. Anyways, Liberty Landing, we called it.
Yes.
And I met him there. And we walked down. We caught the little jetney down to town for 25 cents. Sometimes we'd outwalk the conductor though. And you get off there, we didn't have to pay 25 cents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that the Pineapple Express? Is that what
Yeah.
they called it? Yeah. Wow.
That's one of them, and they just run in between with passengers.
Wow.
Yeah, the Pineapple Express would wake me up some mornings coming off the pineapples, off the sugar canes out here, down their old houses.
So
So he brought his whistle coming down the hill. I think he does it on purpose to wake the guys up.
do you remember
Anyway,
there was a cafe called the Black Cat Cafe? Do you remember anything about that cafe? I know a lot of sailors. The Black Cat
there's the Waikiki Center.
by the YMCA.
Remington Center.
Yes.
Yeah, there's quite a few that go there. We came back, I continue on that. We come back from that day, that was on the 6th.
Okay.
And the day before the attack, we had done that. And we came to, they had that big band contest that night. We wanted to hear that. So we got there, and the crew of the Arizona won that, the band off the Arizona won that. And the next day, all of them were killed in that terrible explosion, except 2, I don't know. That was told to me, so I can't swear to that, but I think it's probably true. Because they were handling ammunition, that's why they were down in that area. And it just, of course, they was right in the middle of it.
Yeah. So would you mind telling me a bit more about, so you said December 6th, you were at the big band contest. Can you
Yeah.
tell me a little more about what else you were doing on that day?
Well, we went to the band concert, and Francis went back to his ship, and I went back to the Whitney. And we were going to meet that day over to catch an 8 o'clock Liberty boat. And again, we both had the weekend off. And so that was our goal for the day, to meet there. So I was down in the Liberty boat a little early, down at the bottom of the gangplank, and they were just waiting there till 8 o'clock. And we see these airplanes coming over. And well, those crazy guys practicing on the weekend, what's the matter with them? And about that time, one of them broke off and came down, and I could see the bomb. I saw the bomb drop. That was the first bomb that dropped for World War II that I saw drop there. And it landed over on Fort Island at the runway. They spoiled the runway so the planes couldn't take off. And I got a story about that too. That guy that dropped the first bomb, his name was Fishita,
Yes.
Commander Fishita.
Yes.
And I met him later, 14 years later. He'd become a Christian, and I had too. And I read in the paper, we were over here, that he was going to be speaking at a church down in town. So we hopped in the car and went over. I wanted to hear that guy. And we decided we could have peace now. But it was kind of difficult to get over it, you know.
Sure.
But anyway, that's where I met him. I thought that was kind of interesting to do that,
Yes.
to meet him.
So you were just walking us through your experience on December 7th. So you just mentioned that you saw the first drop.
Okay. I got out of that Liberty boat, went to sort of see what happened. General Chunk quarters went off. That was our battle stations.
Okay.
And we were already started because we knew that something was haywire. And he got up and I followed my whites up good because I thought, well, we'll take care of these guys pretty quick. And I might be able to get ashore anyway. And I put on my dungarees and went down to #1 fire room. And then we could hear the big guns firing up in the air, you know, boom, boom, boom. And pretty quick we heard tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, and the machine guns come by, and they were flying low, and our gunners couldn't shoot at them because it's coming in so low, because they're shooting towards Fort Island, and there's housing over there too. And so we just had to let them fly by. And those guys, they just shoot at it. So down the fire room, of course, we couldn't see that, but we could hear it. We guesses, well, they're quite a ways out now. Then we hear tut-tut-tut-tut. Well, they're right on us now, and then we can hear the bullets hitting the ship. You know, they ping, ping, ping. And so, well, we got rid of that one.
And what are you feeling at this time? Do you remember what
Well, that was the boiler. I should have told you too. There was 5 destroyers alongside of us, destroyer tender. Yes, it was. And well, let's see, what was I at here? Anyway, we were just getting, we were getting it let off, getting steam up in that boiler, because we just had that #2 boiler was serving the destroyers. They had all theirs secured, and one of them had one boiler torn down and couldn't get away. And our deckhands were down there getting those guys loose. They could go, because they wanted to get out to sea to get away, where they had some maneuvering. And so they went out, and Francis' ship went out, too. And we stayed there with the destroyers, getting rid of them. Then we just stayed there with our light cruiser, the Raleigh. There's a armor-piercing bomb. It hit their upper deck, went through the deck, and went outside down below the water line. And they were taking on so much water, they couldn't keep up with it. The poor old thing was listed over, and they was afraid he was going to lose it. So they had the Whitney move alongside. And the Whitney had really a service ship. They had shops of all kinds on there. We had optical shops, and a welder shop, and a machinist shop, and all kinds of, they could do any kind of work. And we had a group that took care of things like that Raleigh. And they had divers. They went down and put a patch over that hole. And they got the water stopped, so we just stayed there with the Whitney. Whitney was servicing the Raleigh with the needs they had, with electricity and water and whatever they needed. And they finally got it fixed. We were on the alongside there about 3 weeks probably.
Wow.
Then they put us in the dry dock. They give us, we didn't have any guns worth a hoot. They were small guns, 3-inch. They weren't very good. The machine guns, we didn't do much but make a noise with the guns, I think. They never shot anything down. Those goofy Japanese, they'd wave at them when they went by.
Did you see that? Did you see that?
Yeah.
You see that? Wow.
They'd wave at our guys on topside there, because they were after the big ships. They didn't know how valuable the Whitney was. We carried 40 torpedoes and my mind, I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. You mentioned.
Well, he carried the depth charges for they used them, and so did submarines. And we took repairs, any repairs they had. So it was more than just feeding people, you know. We had good shops, good machine shops and everything. Anyway, where did I deviate from?
No, you're fine. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You mentioned Francis. You said that Francis was on another
Oh,
ship.
yeah,
Were you
they
worried?
went right out.
Were you worried about your other friends during the attack?
Well, I was worried about it much because I would have heard if his ship had got sunk. But the folks were worried because I hadn't heard from them. Anyway, we went outside them and got them stabilized, and then I got sent out to Nanakula to help move ammunition while the guys were tied up to the Raleigh. But I was out there about 2 weeks, I guess, and came back. I was glad. I had ammunition. Then they were frightened about they might have a landing over there, because that's a good place for them to make a landing. So they'd have ammunition at daytime and then go out on a watch at night. So I remember I got caught sleeping on watch there one night, and I thought, boy, what are they going to do, shoot me or something?
Oh, no.
So anyway, I got back to the ship, and we got into the yards, and they started giving us new guns and more equipment, and painted us a different color. And we were there, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, probably 3 weeks anyway. They'd done a lot of work. Then we got ready to leave on my birthday. Finally got some mail. I got a package. But boy, I saved that till we got on the way. We headed for Tonga to move. We had to wait down there until they started to battle up to islands. And that was like being in Hawaii. But anyway, that package, I opened it. It was a Christmas package on my birthday. That's when we left here, my birthday.
And when is your birthday again? It's in May, right?
Yeah, at sea.
Wow.
Then, so we went down to Tonga. Then we stayed quite a while. within there. I think we stayed till September. And we went, then that's when they started the drive up the islands. And we went to Caledonia from there. And then that's where I got transferred from the Whitney to the, because I kept putting in for school. I wanted to go to school, so I finally got one. I went to the University of Washington. They sent me there, so I was transferred to there. And I was already second class by then, and they broke me down to apprentice, and I lost my rate going to school.
Yeah.
But like a dummy, I hate to tell this, but I signed up for an engineering course, 17 hours, and lots of, you know what that's like, lots of math. And I was dumb on math. Anyway, nobody told me what to do, so I just done it because that's what I thought I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But so I was only there 6 months at the University of Washington. But I learned some things there. It was good experience.
Was it very different from the Navy? Was it different or similar?
Then I was transferred over to Bremerton
Okay.
and waiting for an assignment. They sent me to the Whitney, which was at San Diego at the time. So we were in Portland. Before I went there, I should have told that too. When they assigned me to the boot camp, that's when I got it. I didn't have any rate yet, you see.
Can you tell me a little more about that, about the boot camp?
Pardon?
Can you tell me a little more about your time at the boot camp?
Yeah,
You mentioned that you were at boot camp before going back on the General E.T. Collins?
oh, the General College, yeah. I got assigned a job there I really wasn't prepared for, because on the Whitney I'd done some work with refrigeration too, so they gave me the refrigeration department, and I went down on it and lived on it, and all other departments had heads on them too that done stuff. That they went there. We all lived on the Collins at that time, and they fed us there. I don't remember how they done that, but anyway, that's how I learned refrigeration. I didn't know beans about it, but I learned, and I studied it hard to know I do. We had 4 huge refrigerating units as big as that table, and we had huge storage spaces to carry frozen stuff in, because we were going to carry troops. We carried about 1,200, and finally they got it all done, and we got out of the yards there, and we took a little cruise just to get used to it. And there's also 52 refrigerated drinking fountains down in where the troops are going to be. And I'd take care of them. And you can imagine you get down in the tropics, how that lasted. Anyway, I was in charge of taking care of all that stuff. And I had to keep it going. I couldn't keep it cold for those troops. So there's always somebody with a pair of pliers and a screwdriver. If I got it right, it was going okay. When it got warm, some wise guy knew how to fix it. So finally I just let him drink hot water. And, so that's what I done. Then I learned how to run the evaporators too. We made about 2,000 gallons of water an hour out of steam, drinking water, paddle water we called it, and that would feed the troops all the water they needed and all the ship needed. Then sometimes we had to make water for the fire rooms down there. And it had to be pretty pure, so then we had to cut down our water consumption because we had to boil water. one that was steam. And one time we went around the south end of Australia. We had 1,200 troops, and because we didn't have an escort, we couldn't go through Singapore. Didn't have through submarines a problem, and so we went around south of Australia, and there we had to quit making water when we got close to India. The water's so contaminated we couldn't boil it and make water. So they had to just use what we had on storage. So then we had to ration the water, and nobody could take a bath. I guess they take a bath in that seawater, contaminated seawater, but that wasn't very pleasant. But I had the evaporators and had huge tanks there, and they had spouts up there, measured how deep it was. So I could go up there and turn a spout and get down to the basement there, the bilges we call it, and turn the spouts on. I take a bath in it down there in the bilges. So I done that.
How did the men feel about not being able to take baths?
Yeah.
How did they feel? How did the other men feel about not being able to take baths and have ration water?
Well, we took seawater in and we boiled it with steam.
Okay.
We had a big tank, boilers, I guess I should call them, but they had tubes in them. The steam would go through the tubes, and the water would hit the steam from the hot from the tubes, and that'd make the steam, and then we'd have to cool it, so it'd be water.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a lot of water. We had 2 of those evaporators. I ended up being in charge of them too.
Wow.
So,
Mr. Stevens, the General E.T. Collins was deployed in the Pacific Theater. Do you have any recollections or stories from that time that you'd like to share with us?
did what?
Do you have any stories from your time in the Pacific Theater that you'd like to share?
Oh yeah. We went into, I can tell 2 different things. You had them on your thing there.
Yeah.
That's New Caledonia. I went fishing there. It's kind of on the south strip of that whole area. And I went fishing there, and I said that I can get permission to do stuff like that. I sat there fishing, and I heard something about me. I looked around, there's a red-headed Navy behind me, but they bleached their hair with cow urine. Isn't that something? That's how his hair was red. Anyway, the other thing we took troops, replacement troops into Saipan, and that was on that strip. And we anchored off, and the troops went ashore, but the main troops had been in there already, but the Japanese were holding in on a hill up there on the hillside. And the troops we had, they were Marines too, and they had to take that hillside, and we just moored out there, anchored out there, and we could see them taking those guys. They were in caves up there, and those Marines would sneak up, get up on them, and throw a grenade in on them. And we could see them fighting like that. That was kind of different.
Yeah. What?
Same thing too. We were at Guam, which is only about we go overnight. We go from Saipan to Guam, and we got there. They were defeated there. But a lot of them running loose yet. They get up in trees and shoot at the guys,
Wow.
you know. And I never went ashore there. It didn't sound very good to me.
What were you feeling? How did you feel at that time, seeing that?
Well, I was just keeping things going on the ship. what I had to do, my duties were, and then I'd go up and look over the side, sightseeing. And that's done that too, Saipan.
Wow.
And then there was one other thing you had on there too.
Well, I know you meant in your journal you mentioned interacting with Japanese POWs. Would you like to
Oh,
share
yeah.
that?
Well, the one here that I saw at church, that I did when we transported some. And early in the game, I don't know where they came from, but we got some prisoners in. We brought them back here and dumped them here in Japan. Japan, Japanese off in Hawaii. There's a lot of Japanese here too. And then we had other groups, larger groups we brought back too. A couple of them anyway, I remember. And we treated them pretty good. They ate what we ate, and we put them in compartments about this size. There weren't any windows or anything. Probably wasn't real pleasant. And we had to walk through there sometimes to work. But and some guys had teased them like they had gold teeth, a lot of them did. And I had a friend who went into the fires, and of course they about scared to death. He was acting like he was a get their teeth.
Sure.
And that's kind of a mean thing to do, but kind of scared of it, I don't know. But anyway, then when we brought some of them in I visited with some of our guys that we brought back after the war, in fact.
Right. So,
But I never did treat much of the Japanese because I couldn't understand them very good, and they didn't want to talk. And also, I guess I told you, deckhands done this. They'd down it, to bring them in the lodge, then they get down to the pumping water out of the ocean and to wash them off. Well, I don't know whether they needed it or not, but they done it, and then they brought them on board ship and put them in the compartment. So.
Okay. Now you also mentioned that you had transported some returning soldiers, some POWs as well.
Some of our others back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We brought back a load of them.
Do you have any memories, or did you interact with any of those men?
I could tell you some memories I didn't have about it. Is that so I visited with some of the guys. Some of them got treated pretty good. I got made friends with it just while we were going over, taking them home. He was telling me about it. He worked in a coal mine. He said he got treated pretty good, but he worked. He said he did. But some of the guys that balked and didn't work, and they got treated kind of mean. And some of them got treated mean anyway. So I picked a few up too. We picked up some at Guam. We picked a lot of those guys up at Yokohama.
Wow. So.
And it was kind of interesting to me to meet that guy that dropped that first bomb.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
His folks, I found out that his folks owned a chicken farm. He grew up on a chicken farm.
Oh, wow.
And that's something.
And you're talking about Mr. Fuchida? Is that who you're talking about?
That's Fuchida.
Yes.
Commander he was in the Japanese Navy.
Wow.
After that, they didn't get away scot-free. We had the battle down there in what's the name of that island? Anyway, these people, the Navajos, cracked their code, and they were going down to take this island. We had a few soldiers on there, not very many. So we relayed them. That's about 6 months after this.
Wow.
And sunk some Japanese ships to be really related to them, and sunk all the carriers they had there. and this guy, Fushida, he had to jump off of a second deck down to first he broke his leg. He never did fly anymore. So I sent him back to Tokyo to the hospital. Anyway, sidetracked again.
That's okay. I only have about 4 more questions. Do you want to take a break, get some water, or do you want to keep going?
Not really.
You just want to keep going?
Yeah.
Or okay.
I'm okay.
Oh, you're okay.
As long as if I can think it now.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So, just winding down a bit. How did your wartime experiences affect your life?
How to do this change my life? I think I've been a lot more mature because I had more responsibilities.
Okay.
And I think that's a good thing. I think more young people ought to be doing that because they can't, I say run around the streets at home. They can't find a job because they haven't any skills, and they can't go to school because they haven't got any money. But you go to college, they'll put you through college, but you got to shop in for. We just had a girl out of our church do that. She went to graduate from Oregon State, and I went up. She wanted me to sit to her on commission. I don't know why. Anyway, and so there's about 20, 30 kids got graduated into the Navy as a junior officer. So that's the experience I had with them. And I like to teach kids a little bit about what it means to be useful to your country. Have respect for it. There's so much rebellion now. There's so much riffraff going on. I think it's a small group to doing that, comparative-wise, but it makes an influence on our country. So that's what I like, and that's what we're doing with them. And you spoke to somebody. Did you speak of Oregon?
We can, if you'd like. Do you want to talk more about what you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you go home to Oregon after your service?
Yeah.
You went home? Okay.
Yeah, well, but what I done after my service, got 6 years in, I graduated on the same day as I went in, March the 10th. But I got out early in January because I hadn't had any liberty. I figured about probably 35 months in the tropics over here, taking people back and forth and being over there. So, but when I got out, it got kind of bad in the Navy at that time, and I kind of fell into it because I probably would have stayed. But the reserves are wanting out. Now I was in the regular Navy. When my time was up, I was up. But some of them hadn't stayed in yet, and they really tried on belly aching about it. And I got kind of caught up in the griping about it, And so I'm going home. So I got into logging.
Oh.
I partnered up with a couple of guys. We had a logging company. We employed about 30 to 50 people. We had a pretty good company.
So, were there similarities between what you did with your logging company and your service, your time in the service? Did it prepare you?
Some of the things I learned, I used.
Okay.
Especially equipment stuff, I could handle that pretty good.
Wow.
So, and then being in charge of a crew, you had to know how to be someone's in charge of things without being ornery. You can be nice and do it. And then I see people all the time down that thank me for guys that are a little younger than me. I even had kids come out of school. I had one kid come out. He wanted to learn how to log before he come out and ask for a job. things like that, you know.
Wow.
So,
So and you.
so that's what I done mainly. And I had a lot of irons in the fire. I got to be a pastor in a church, and I was a pastor no longer. That was a good contact because I knew how to talk to Logan people, and I knew how to talk to Navy people, and it was a good experience. Only done a build a motel. Yeah.
Wow.
I built a new. I didn't know. He got the credit. He got a thing going. I was just a guy that helped.
Still, that's impressive.
Anyway, built a beautiful, best building in town.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I can imagine. You mentioned before that you really like interacting with children and students. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will listen to our interview?
Well, I like to see them begin geared for our country, you know. Get used to living like we used to live without so much people driving, and you know, and we get form a bunch of people go down town and wherever. You want to make a point like that. There's a better way of doing it than that. That's what I think. I'd like to see the kids know what they were doing in that area.
Wow.
To be more patriotic, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
I think maybe some of them think they are, but they aren't when they act like they do. You know, like that deal going to the White House and that thing. That isn't all done yet. I don't think.
Wow.
Anyway, that's what I like to teach people.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I just have one more question for you. I know that you are going to be participating in the Pass and Review tomorrow. The Pass and Review for tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm certain the people think, how about let's go by one ship?
I believe so.
I'll ask for a second chip for you, sir.
Anyway, I got somebody tell me how to stand up.
I'll do my best.
Here comes the flag, so float with right hand. Huh?
Yes.
Now stand up there until the last one goes by, I guess.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going to stand, but
We have an usher. There's going to be an usher there, so you don't have to worry. But we're all really excited for you.
yeah. Yeah, I can stand a long time.
Of course.
I'm pretty good shape. I don't act like it sometimes, but
Oh, you're looking great, sir. You're phenomenal. So these are all my questions. Did you want to add anything? Did you have any stories you wanted to share with us before we wrap up, or are you okay?
have what?
So I'm done with my questions. Did you want to talk about anything? I know you mentioned before we sat down something about Thanksgiving. Did you want to talk about Thanksgiving?
Oh. Oh, that's right. I didn't tell you that.
Yeah.
That's at the beginning before the
Oh.
bombing.
Oh, that's okay. If you
That's
want to
where
tell
I was
us.
going to start. I had
Oh, okay.
kind of my mind where I was going to start.
Okay.
We went out on maneuvers for 3 weeks. Did I say that?
You did.
Okay. I should have told you there were carriers and that. They would tow the targets by the ships, and those gunners would shoot at the target that the planes were towing.
Wow.
The pilots didn't like that too good because they were afraid they might shoot them down, miss the target. Anyway, the carriers didn't. We came in for Thanksgiving, everybody. They kept the carriers out there, and that was good news because if they'd been in there, they couldn't have moved, and then they got them. But they were out at sea, and they never got them, and so we still had our Navy Air Force.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how we defeated them so bad. 6 months later, we got even with them down there at, I can tell you the name of that island. You'd know it. It's a big battle right after, about 6 months later,
Iwo Jima?
and everybody's happy about it.
Oh, Midway.
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 Midway's the way. Yeah,
Wow.
good for you.
Yeah. I cheated.
Oh.
Weston helped me. I cheated. Well,
Yeah, they guys went way later down there. Yeah, thanks to the Navajos.
yes, yeah, the code breakers.
Yeah.
That's right. Wow. Well,
That was really important too. We done that.
yeah.
We were still here, right? Old Whitney, those right back here, in dry dock. Oh, we might have been down Tonga playing. I don't remember. Anyway, we didn't go down there. We went down to Tonga. I should tell you about Tonga. I didn't tell you about that.
Here, if you'd like to, we were very happy to listen.
Have you been down to Tonga?
No, I would love to.
It's just like being here. Oh, probably 90 years ago, or more than that. It's still like that. They got a king and a queen, and you could ride a bicycle or a horse for 50 cents a day. And we, of course, let's say, can you imagine a sailor riding a horse? Well, they ride the horses, and boy, they kicked those little horses. And probably some of those city guys hadn't seen a horse. But anyway, it was a sight for sore eyes. Boy, we had fun. Then we went over to get bananas one day. You could pick them off the island. There was one next together over there. And so some of us went over there and picked bananas. We picked our own, but you could pick have they'd pick one for 50 cents. You get a whole bunch of them, you know.
Wow.
And we picked bananas and we got in trouble. But that was the Queen's Island. And so we heard about that. And another day we was going to ride our bicycles. That kid I tell you about. And go to see the Queen up at the palace, you know. We got up there and there was a bunch of soldiers around there. So we turned our bicycles around and went back. I should have stayed on the ship that day anyway. Got in trouble doing that. We had one boiler needed to be repaired. And, you know, the guy that was in charge of me wanted us to stay and finish it up. No, I haven't got to do it today. And so that's what I done when it's there. But the next day, when I went to work, he saw that I worked. Oh, I had an experience too in the boilers about that. This is a good story. It's on the officer. That's what we had. I don't know what we were doing, but we were out doing some maneuvering, and I had all the boilers just as whistling, and all they do. All of a sudden we got a stop bell. And boy, when you done a stop bell, you shut her off. Well, those close fire roads I was telling you about, why, they were closed. We must have been a battle station because it wasn't closed. Anyway, all that heat from that boiler we had going on full speed ahead just flared right back at us. We got to 56 degrees, I read. We took 5-minute watches out in front taking care of it because we couldn't take it any longer than 5 minutes. And then I see we runs out of steam, and I had to have steam to run the fans to light those boilers off. So I told my fireman, says, go and turn the valve off at the bulkhead. Wow. So he turned that stopper off and turned everything off in the ship, everything, except down the boilers where it was. And I thought, boy, I better get her for this. But I had to do it because what happened, that old equipment on there was as old as I was, 1922. And those feeder pumps, as we call those, that was feeding the oil to the boiler, quit. I couldn't get it to go. And I didn't have any oil with nothing to burn. But it literally in there burned. pretty quick it burned out, but about that time I got back to that pump and I hit it with a wrench and it started. And you know, that oil hit out, if I got time, about 3 ounces. Of course, so that happened, you shut the steam off, here comes 3 ounces down. They didn't know what a boiler was, I don't think. Anyway, I got that thing started about the time they got down there, and that hit that hot steel down that boiler, and it boom. Had a flare back, went back from here to that wall there. I happened to not be in it, but those officers were over there in ways, 3 of them. They went back faster than they went and came down. They did, they stuck right off. Just stuck me down there to burn again.
And how old were you when around that time?
I was probably about 20 then.
20 years old. Wow.
21.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Wow.
I figured the captain and everybody else would be on me.
Wow.
Finally, we got a lot of, I gotta say it, poor officers. Some of them say they drafted them. They didn't like it.
Okay.
They didn't like the Navy. And so they didn't like the work. We got guys down there that didn't want to take the reading. We had to take a reading every hour down in the engine room. And so they get seasick coming out, some of those guys do. We just give them a bucket and a pad, take this bucket and a pad and go around and take a reading, because they'd be sick and they hated that. They finally get over it.
Were there any officers or enlisted men that you remember that really inspired you at that time that you?
That I like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Several of them.
Anyone in particular you
Yeah.
can share?
The one I had, the engineering officer I had was a good man. Now, he wrote me a letter when I went back to school. I had another officer who I liked him, but better than Crew did, because he was kind of a funny guy. He was, he had a mustache, and they call it a mustache, it took to his back. And so I didn't do that. And he didn't know it. They did. But one time that reminds me of him too. I started thinking of him. So we had some Marines bringing on stores. And one of those Marines come by and the whole crate, a box of mixed nuts. He wanted to trade me for get a block of ice about a fourth as big as that table. It's just about right. And I traded him that ice for that table, that box of nuts. Boy, that was a good trade. But Stoney saw that ice up on the main deck where those Marines were. He knew where it came from. And here he come. There's that mustache just go like that. And I had to laugh. And it made me mad, and he turned around and laughed. But I had another good officer, too. I left there. He was a good man. He gave me good recommendations. And always made a good man.
Wow.
I had just friends, too. I had watches up and where I'd visit with them. But I had one guy from Texas, an officer I worked with. We'd stand up there on the watch and visit about things. He'd tell me about catching 300-foot catfish, and I wondered about that. Pretty big fish.
Very large, yeah.
Anyway.
Wow. Wow. Well.
And he got after me for using bad language. I used bad language, and I got over that. Quit doing it. It was bad.
Well, while you were in the service, you had.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
That was pretty terrible, people. In fact, we had a chef's reunion up in Bremerton, and they heard that I'd become a preacher, so they had me have a little sermon on Sunday. And I heard some guy back there say, "That can't be Red Dead Stevens." couldn't believe it. But I did.
Wow. Wow.
But I treated everybody nice. I wasn't mad at him just because he's an officer or working for me.
Wow. Very nice. Wow. All right. Well, Mr. Stevens, I thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me and chat with us today. You know, it's stories and experiences like yours that are really just vital. And the fact that you not only lived through, but were a participant in some of the most, vital and major moments in this country's history. It's just a great pleasure. And I thank you so much for your service for our nation. It's not gone unnoticed, and we are so very grateful here
Yeah.
to meet with you today.